we're going to dive way into your superpowers because we are live on Facebook for the Tuesday edition of the Not Your Average Investor Show. I am your host, Pablo Gonzalez. With me, as always, the man they call GC because he's a great co-host and because his name is Gregg Cohen. Say hello, Gregg.
Hello, everybody. Great to be with you.
And today, as we were intimating earlier, we've got a really, really special guest. This gentleman was the head of the behavioral analysis program for the FBI. He is a bona fide spycatcher. He's written 2 best-selling books, The Code of Trust and Sizing People Up, all about how you build trust and how you evaluate whether you can trust people. And he is now the CEO of his company, The People Formula. And quite frankly, I've been stalking him online for a solid 6 months. I'm lucky enough to have built this relationship, lucky enough to talk him into coming on board. And I'm just really, really pumped to have him. Welcome, the mixture of Jack Bauer and the mentalist, Robin Dreeke.
I got to take a class from you on how to do that, Pablo. That was phenomenal. And you can really make people feel great where it really isn't warranted. So thank you very much. And good to see you, Gregg.
That's my superpower, Robin. I'm a hype
It is a phenomenal superpower.
So welcome everybody on the call. I see some of our regulars already trickling in. We got John Henning. Hello, John. Hello, Lee Bishop. Hello, Leo. Good to see everybody today. This is going to be a really, really interesting conversation. You're going to learn yourself a thing or two. And as you know, these are interactive calls. We want you participating here with the crowd. We want you asking Robin. We want you asking Gregg questions. And there's 2 ways to do that. Number 1 is to welcome Marilyn coming in from Homosassa, Florida.
Home of the manatees.
There's 2 ways to do it. There is the chat where everybody's already saying hi and welcome. Rick Margwin. Good to see you back as well. That is the perfect place to interact with each other and give commentary of what's happening in the chat right now. Little trick to the chat. When you first default into there, it's defaulted only to talk to us. So you got to drop that blue box and put panelists and attendees so everybody can talk amongst yourselves, become friends with each other. And if you want a question asked live here on the air that makes it to the podcast, that you may or may not make it to the micro content that we put out and be JWB famous, you got to use the Q&A box so that it doesn't move as quickly as the chat. I don't go cross-eyed. I make sure to get your question in. And last but not least, if you really want to know what this passive investing game is all about, right? Normally, a lot of these calls are very real estate related. This is more soft skills related for you to evaluate who you can trust, who you can do business with. But if you want more factual information about passive income investing, go to jwbpassiveguide.com. Great little guide to download. It's going to tell you like the tenets of everything that JWB believes in and what's going to make it a home run for you if you're getting into the passive income game. But with passive income game. But without further ado, the star of the show, Robin, I'm going to start off. Since you and I have had a couple of conversations already, I'm not going to just lob you a T-ball shot here. I'm going to start by asking, I've heard you say that your books are manuals of how not to be the moron you were born to be.
Yes.
Can you tell us what you mean by that?
Yeah, really simply, especially by your intro. By the way, I finally have met someone that talks as fast as I do. So thank you. I could keep up. So yeah, I mean, you can tell by that background, I am a type A hard charger, Naval Academy graduate, Marine Corps officer, FBI, over 20 years, with the FBI and 30 with the government. And what I came to find out is that I am, and also Myers-Briggs type indicator, ENTJ, that's extroverted, intuitive thinking judger, life's natural leader, the executive. No, when you're 20 years old, that means you're a narcissistic megalomaniac ass. And so when you realize that and have those humbling moments in life, I realized I need to do something. I need to not change who I am, because, we all have these great strengths, but when we have strengths to extreme, they can become liabilities. And so mine in certain situations was a liability. And since I was in the hardest cold calling business there is, recruiting spies, because I had a limited potential field of clients. And these are foreign nationals, that's our spies and diplomats at foreign establishments. And it's illegal for me to actually cold call, initiate contact with them. That is a line of work that if you actually take that hard charge in behavior, you will fail majestically. And so I had great Jedi masters around me that had this interpersonal art form down. And it was my job to figure out how were they successful and how was I failing. And I really codified that art form and made it a paint by number, which I was lucky enough later on in my career to teach at Quantico. And it was then taking their anecdotal observations I was making it and making it linear. And every time you give labels and meanings to things, you recognize them easier. I call it the new car effect. You buy a new car, all of a sudden you start seeing that same make and model because it now has label and meaning. You don't have to try, it has meaning. And so when we can do the same thing with behaviors, when we give a label, not a label as a judging thing, a label as just an understanding of things, it now has meaning and you recognize it. And so I was able to recognize behaviors that I need to subdue, but more importantly, I recognize behaviors I needed to add because it's much easier to add things to ourselves than to remove. And so and hence I taught, I gave labels and meanings, and I made my manuals, my books to share. And they are my manuals on how to be not me.
Awesome. And just to go a little into more detail, right? Because I poured through these books. Code of Trust is your 5-step kind of system on how you build trust with people.
Yep.
Sizing people up is your 6 steps, 6 indicators of how you know you can trust people. Highly, highly recommend it. I am a behavior nerd and really, really enjoyed it. But I want to go into something you said, because I actually, this was literally what I had planned to ask you anyways, but you kind of referenced it. I want to contextualize things here. How is recruiting a Russian spy like sales? Can you kind of
Sure.
talk me through that?
Sure. A lot of people are in a service industry, and I was in a service industry. The product I had was nationalism, patriotism, to the United States government. And so my job was to sell that product to clients. And my only potential clients that I had on my scope were spies. And these spies, 99.9% of the time, are under diplomatic cover at diplomatic establishments around our country. So I was working in New York, so United Nations. And so my particular, not even just all spies, my particular area was Russian spies, and specifically the Russian military intelligence, or the GRU. Didn't have a whole lot of potential clients there. And so the first challenge is you have a very, very small potential client pool. Say, just for argument's sake, 30 or 40. And I have on my squad, I got about 10 people, 10 agents. So I have 10 people in sales when potential clients of about 30 or 40. So that's the first challenge. The second challenge is how many of them do you even think are considering buying my product of American patriotism? So that's that right. There you go. And so the next challenge is by treaty, it's illegal for me as the FBI to initiate contact with them because they are foreign diplomats. And so it was illegal for me to actually conduct a cold call. I could not initiate contact. So my only abilities to interact and find out about my clients was through people in their lives, the people they were recruiting for information. So it's other think tank people, people at universities, CEOs and executives that cleared contractors, to garner information so they could fill their information gaps, which was their job. And so the only way for me to gain information about my potential clients was through these other people. And these other people are not even conducting illegal activity either, because believe it or not, people don't understand. Spies 99.9% of the time are not doing illegal activity. They're collecting information to serve information gaps that their countries have. Like right now, what do you think is a major information gap of every country in the world compared to us? COVID-19 research. I guarantee you, I'm guaranteeing you right now, that is a hot topic that all intelligence agencies around the world are collecting, because if a country can save themselves millions and billions of dollars on research by stealing it from someone else, why not? Because that drives the economy. So that was my job, was to recruit these people, because if I knew what they were doing, I can protect national security. I can protect our infrastructure. I can protect other companies from all these different attack vectors that are coming in to try to compromise them and our economy. And so this begs the question then. So that's the challenge of sales that I had. So how do you actually recruit a spy? You don't. How do you sell a product? You don't. You actually figure out, because here's the core of all human beings. We're genetically and biologically coded to always act in our own best interests according to our own safety, security, prosperity, and control, according to how I see that. Now, if I can figure out what you think is in your best interest, in other words, i.e. your priorities, your needs, wants, dreams, and aspirations, and I now offer you resources in terms of what your priorities are, we're going to have a relationship. Because why wouldn't we? Because it is in your best interest to interact with me, because I actually have the solutions to your priorities and your challenges. So my job is to figure out which one of these individuals actually had priorities that aligned with resources I had. Like they didn't want their kids to grow up in that regime. A dying wish of a mother, grandfather, or elder was that their families would have a better life. They have healthcare issues. They want education for their families. They wanted a different way of life than they were experiencing where they're at. I have resources in terms of that. I can actually resettle you here. I actually have other things that can, put wheels in place to actually service those things. And likewise, I'm going to share with you my priorities in terms of national security, the things I need to know to help protect us, our economy, our infrastructure, our country as a whole, and our NATO allies. And now, if you are willing to share your resources in terms of those things, and I'm willing to share my resources in terms of those things, we now have an arrangement. We have a partnership. Isn't that not the same thing as sales anywhere?
Wow. When you put it that way, Robin, with all the challenges that you have in your prior role, in your sales role, by the way, I love how we should all think of everything we do as some sort of selling element. I never would have expected to hear that from the FBI. So that is incredible. But I'm just saying, you are making us all feel bad if we're not good salespeople based on all the challenges you had to overcome, and we're still able to do an incredible job. We were talking a little bit off camera about how specifically some of your top clients are in the finance industry.
Yeah.
When you're able to relate some of these skills, these sales skills that you were talking about, that you experienced from issues of national security over to, the sales process and sort of the finance industry. Can you talk about what elements kind of drive that and why it's so important or so applicable to the finance industry, maybe more than other industries that you found?
Yeah, because, what I was ultimately trying to do is I was demonstrating that this individual, which was literally putting their life, because if they were caught for doing what they're doing, their safety, security, and prosperity was totally gone for not just them, but their entire families. And so they were investing in me. They were trusting me to handle them, handle the information they're sharing, and protect them from any mishaps. And in order to do that, they had to be able to trust me. If no trust, there's no relationship. No relationship, there's no arrangement. There's no partnership. And so I had to be able to demonstrate that I was trustworthy to them. And these goes into the 6 signs. And this is what overlaps, when people are investing millions of dollars, their entire life, they're investing their prosperity and their success of their family's health and well-being. And they're trusting this other individual to not let them down. They're trusting them basically with their family's life. And so in order to do that, I'm always looking for these 6 signs of predictable behavior. We call it trustworthiness, but I think more in terms of predictable behavior, because trust can be kind of judgy. And people like to say, I can trust you or not trust you. And it's not that black and white, because trust is not like I trust everything or I trust nothing. I'm very specific. I call these vectors. There's always different vectors, because I would not trust, just because you're a great financial investor and you've made me millions of dollars doesn't mean I can throw you the keys to a plane and you're not a pilot and I can trust you not to get us killed. It's apples and oranges. It's like right. Trust is not universal. It's just predictable behavior. So I'm always making sure what I'm looking for in other individuals are these 6 things. And these are the 6 things I want to make sure I'm also demonstrating with other individuals. And I know we're talking beforehand, and these are great things that Pablo was doing with me when we first met each other online. Is sign 1, vesting. Are they vested in your success? And do they see your success tied with their own? And so it's that mutual vesting through their action, words, and deeds. The second thing I'm looking at and trying to demonstrate also is longevity. Do they see this as a transactional, quick quid pro quo interaction, or do they see longevity to this? In other words, are they planning things and events and outcomes 3, 6, 12 months down the line and even further? So I'm looking for and trying to demonstrate signs of longevity. Next thing I want to look for is reliability. And we can easily find this out through, testimonials, reviews, interactions. Do they actually have the skills to do the things they say they can? And do they have the tenacity, diligence to follow through and do it? One way to test that is tempo, I think. Look at Pablo's tempo. It's crazy. Yes. So he actually has the tenacity to follow through on things and the energy to do it. There is no doubt. Next, I'm looking at actions. And these are positive actions as well as past patterns of key behaviors. If I observe you doing something once, twice, or 3 times, the same way, the likelihood of you doing it the same way 4, 5, and 6, pretty dang high. Next, I'm looking for language. Beautiful, beautiful language. So I already said what we're all hardwired for as human beings is the safety, security, and prosperity and a semblance of control. The other thing that we're looking for as human beings is to feel affiliated with meaningful groups or organizations and be valued by those same. And so that's about how do we reverse the conversation from being focused on us to focused on others. So what I'm looking for in language and what I'll make sure I'm doing myself is seeking the thoughts and opinions of others rather than giving my own. Talking in terms of their priorities instead of sharing mine. Validating them without judging them. This is what's really key here is non-judgmental curiosity about the human being. In other words, this is the walk a mile in my shoes and see what decisions you would make without judging. And finally, empowering people with choices. When you can build at least one of those 4 things in everything you say and everything you write, the entire shift goes from you to them, and their brain is now rewarding them with dopamine, oxytocin, and bloodstream, serotonin. Their pleasure centers in their brain are firing when you shift the focus from yourself to them. And so that's what I'm doing with language. And this is what I want to see from them as well with language. And finally, I'm looking for the 6th sign, which is stability, emotional stability. During times of stress, duress, anger, resentment, frustration, do they maintain good cognitive thought or do they go off the rails and become unpredictable? So I'm always looking for good cognitive thought. And even if, and people also, I understand, we always overreact a lot of times when first, hit with something. How fast do they come back to center again? Do they maintain an understanding of what I'm about to do or say is going to either help or hinder me moving forward? And the key to moving forward is not the things you're trying to do. It's relationships you need in order to do them. And so my focus is always, always, always a good, healthy, strong relationship. You have that by having open, honest communication and transparency. And the final thing, which ensures that this is not manipulation in any way, is you're an available resource for their success and prosperity without expectation reciprocity. That is absolutely the key. In other words, this is where you're building your personal brand, your company brand. Because at the end of the day, if they do not want to move forward with you, what do you have? Your brand. And from brand comes what? Referrals.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That's a lot. Death by Robert.
No. Listen, man. So when I first heard you on the Science of Success podcast, I'm like, I love this dude. Everything he's saying makes me feel like I'm doing something right. And now as again, ego, right? Like I'm like you, I needed your manual to save me from myself, at least the lessons learned within. And as you go through that list, I would just be really remiss to not contextualize this in everything that I love about our boy GC over here and about JWB and what we're doing, right? Like Rob, just to let you know, Robin, that like I'm not setting you up. I didn't set you up for a testimonial, right? But I just kind of want to break this down. The idea of vesting, right? Number one, JWB has this like pockets of communities where they owe 300 homes and they are in the same business model as their clients. Longevity, everything that Gregg talks about is be in it for a full market cycle. I only want long-term investors, 10 to 20 years. That is how we want to be doing business together. Reliability, right? Like we show up every single week here. They have proven that what they do is, I think the next one is actions, right? Like the idea that they're just always being present. Actions. They talk about this like hedgehog concept of like all they care about, 99% of what they care about is finding profitable rental income properties, and everything else is just like a tiny experiment, which is the Alex the Fox department. Language, code, I have since I started working with Gregg, I pushed him to do an episode on just how he communicates because of how he is so like looking for opinion, right? Like this show is like looking for the opinions of others, right. Being there, all, and then stability is just like, I feel awkward. So just, like gushing about it because it seems so contrived, but I would really be remiss not to delineate that for, it just makes me feel good to say it. Right.
No. And it's important. And I think the magic of this and other like-minded things is it's so easy for me to see who's successful because people that are doing these things, these are the cores and the bedrock of every single successful individual and individual to team, team to company, organization, structure. This is it. There's some magic mojo formula. No, it's how do you be a really, really good human being? How do you develop really, really good, strong relationships? Because with those, you have partnerships. With partnerships, because not one individual has all the answers or all the skills. It's a guarantee. If we were meant to be here by ourselves, we would be. We're meant to be here on this planet, in this universe, interacting and playing to each other's strengths, augmenting each other. I mean, I in life, I call people, you are a beta tester for me. Beta testers are people that are unconditionally vested in your success, yet they maintain objectivity. So they're not emotionally tied to your outcome. And those are the greatest teachers, mentors, and guides you can have, because if you have the humility to listen to a beta tester, you will get better. This past year has been a phenomenal year if you had beta testers and humbled up and says, I suck. This world I was living in has now rapidly changed, because here's a guarantee of life also. Things change every day. Sometimes that changes fast and sometimes it's slower. This past year has been full speed ahead, rapid change. And so the only way to keep up with that tempo of change is through relationships and partnerships. And I think the people that have come out on this end of it, and I haven't come out of anything, it's just continuing forward through this, are the ones that are doing exactly what you all are doing. You are creating networks, you're creating relationships, you're creating community, because that is where resiliency lies. That's where success and prosperity lies.
And I'm taking so much in. I'm just enjoying being a fly on the wall for this conversation. But as I'm listening to both of you speak about this, and Pablo, thanks for all the kind words about JWB. I'm thinking about all of the people that are in my life or in my life here at work here at JWB, and those same characteristics are exemplifying, right? Whether I was thinking of some of the people that we've hired in the last couple of years that I've been on interviews with them, and they're now wonderful members of the team. And I'm thinking, wow, vesting. I'm thinking about reliability. I'm thinking about the actions. I'm thinking about the language that they're displaying. And then in this interview, I could tell that it was beyond just what they're looking for themselves, right? I'm thinking about all these people in my life that I look at, and I feel really blessed to have them in my life. Now, those are the characteristics that I was looking for. I didn't even realize it. So,
yes. And we all are. And that's the funny thing too, is, I know a lot of younger people, because I have I have kids in their 20s, that some people are struggling because they think they have to find the right job. And I keep saying, stop trying to find the right job and find the right people.
Exactly.
I had so many, just in the FBI alone, when you're a government employee on a government salary, living in New York, you got to do something. I couldn't afford lunch money. I was selling Amazon books on the side. I was a pallbearer, because I lost a couple of friends as a Marine Corps League up there. We lost a few friends in 9/11. I took his place as a pallbearer. I made $60, carrying caskets. I helped little old ladies set up their internet accounts. All the stuff. And that's not even counting, when I was young, 9 years old, selling baseball cards on a school bus because I needed school clothes. I never cared about the job. I cared about the people, because that comes down to, what is that? That's leadership. And it's leadership not about title and position, leadership about being that resource for others and forming those great relationships. And so I always say, I can teach a monkey to flip a switch. What I can't teach it is self-awareness to realize how to play to your strengths, be honest and open about your weaknesses, and understand what tools you're going to bring to bear to overcome those things. And then ultimately, who do you trust? I trust the people that are transparent with all these things, because I know you're going to keep my situational awareness so high that I can make good cognitive choices and decisions as well, because you're keeping me from having blind spots. And that's exactly what great successful organizations are doing. And those are the types of people that make you feel great about coming to work every day. You all are, again, just another great example of never in a million years had I ever considered going into real estate in any way. But knowing you two, I would dive in wholeheartedly today. Because why wouldn't you? Who doesn't want to be around this?
You're 100% right. When I think about, what we do, I talk very little about the actual nuts and bolts of the property as far as like what I like, right? Whenever we're talking about how I make investment decisions, it's about the team, or if I'm advising clients, I'm saying, figure out the team first before you go to the market that you're looking at or the property that you're looking at. Go to the team, because this is going to be a long-term investment. You need to make sure you work with somebody that you actually like talking to on the phone routinely, right? But most people put that last, and it's just so applicable to all elements of investments and beyond.
Yeah, it's got to be first. Absolutely, it's got to be first, because if you have that attribute going for you and that organization has the type of people that you want to talk to, they're going to be successful. I guarantee you they're going to be successful. And also, what's that bring forward? Quality service. That brings forth that great quality service that people actually will pay more for, because one, you have that trust and transparency, but it's a premium. Being of great service is such a premium because so many people are horrible at it. I mean, we've all experienced people that it dumbfounds me how people can make money and they suck so bad at service. Exactly. It makes you say, if they can do so well and they actually suck at interpersonal stuff, can you imagine how powerful and impactful people could be and companies could be if they are actually focused on the right stuff instead of the widget?
Truthfully, when we got into doing turnkey rental properties, this was about 15 years ago now, there was nobody else that was doing it, or I didn't know anybody else that was doing it. It was still a yet to be discovered by the masses. But we looked at the simple process of rental properties and property management, and the bar was set so low for service that we said, wow, if we could just focus on the experience, right? If this could be a premium service experience, nobody could compete. And, that really became our mission. And, I can't say it wasn't without design, entering an industry that has sucked for so long at doing the bare minimum for service has helped.
And TV shows, without even realizing it sometimes, exemplify just this. I mean, for anyone who's ever watched, the comedy show, The Office, here's a great example of a mid-level paper company in competition with Staples and Office Depot. And there's this great episode where they have Dwight and Jim out on a sales call. And they're trying to sell their paper, and the guy behind the desk is saying, no, your prices are too high. We can't do it. And Dwight says, but, no one can give you the customer service that we do. And so all of a sudden, Dwight starts dialing on the phone as Jim's still talking to the guy who's saying, no, the prices suck. And all of a sudden, the guy dials up Staples, and you get the automated thing going through Staples. Hey, if you want this, press this. If you want this, press this. And he goes, that's Staples. Now listen to this. He then dials in Dunder Mifflin, their paper company, and Kelly Kapoor comes on the phone, and she's like, hey, Dunder Mifflin. And she's all this high energy, taking care of service. And he goes, I get it. Click, hung up, and they went with them. Why? It wasn't the price. It was the service. Always comes down to, do you like this?
And what a culture at The Office, by the way.
The
most awkward comedy you'll ever watch.
The best.
So I can't really watch The Office because when it came out, I was Steve Carell. Like I was like the 25.
I couldn't watch it then either. Yep.
Yeah, I was literally like 26 years old, managing a 120 employee office and just bumbling around like an idiot because I had, whatever. Anyway, so that being said, Robin, you just kind of contextualized something that I would love to dive into. And it's this idea that during periods of rapid change, there is like these big opportunities, right? In black swan moments, there's unprecedented opportunity. And your book, Sizing People Up, starts on September 11th. And you kind of like, that was kind of the genesis of you, or at least in the book, it was the genesis of you understanding that, man, I don't know who I have on my team and who I don't have on my team in a moment of crisis, and I need to figure this out. Mm-hmm. Is that true? Can you kind of talk us through your epiphany of like, I need to systemize this stuff, put it into frameworks, and make this a replicable process?
Yeah, so it was multifaceted. I mean, I don't think I was exceptionally cognizant of it at the time, because when you're living through things, you're just reacting to things a lot of times. If you experience something once, the second, third, and fourth time, you'll actually be more cognizant and thoughtful as you go through it. The first time we experience anything, though, is generally reaction in general. And so definitely during 9/11, I was reaction because I was in New York. My office building is 26 Federal Plaza. It's about 5 blocks from the World Trade Center. I saw the first plane hit the North Tower. I was on the street getting some coffee. It's literally on my floor, 25th floor, just northeast of the Trade Center. And I saw the fireball come through as the second tower got hit. I saw the second tower got hit because I had counted 8 bodies jumping from the North Tower. And I was working, did counterintelligence at the time, and then everyone got shifted to work Middle East. And so I go to one of my Russian sources in the book. His name's Leo. And this guy was a phenomenal bureau source for over 25 years. Had a lot of handlers prior to me. And I remember going to him and saying, hey, we need to work Middle East now. And as a matter of fact, the individual in the book, I call him Anon. In real life, it's a different name. I protected everyone's identity, literally, because I told you in the book that we exchanged gift baskets every year as our tradition of longevity. 3 bottles of wine over here from Anon. I just texted him back and forth today. I mean, we are still great friends from 9/11. Anyway, he was the relative of a leader of a third world country, Middle Eastern country. And there's a potential threat of nuclear war between those countries after 9/11 that not a lot of people knew about. And anyway, I'd only had about 4 or 5 years in the bureau, and I had this potential source of information that could help prevent this from happening. And so I had a couple challenges. How do I quickly assess this individual for veracity and trustworthiness and we actually had the connection. And the second part of this became my now blossoming awareness of politics internal. How do I get my bosses to trust me to let this guy with only 4 or 5 years handle this and not one, blow it off, take it as, how do I have my own credibility with them? How do I have them trust me to handle this, potentially blow up in our face, literally potentially blow up in our face? It was a lot of dynamics that were going on at the time. And it really came down to, in hindsight, relationships, and leveraging relationships and assessing, can I trust a non through those signs of the 6 signs of predictable behavior / trustworthiness. At the same time, can I demonstrate those to my management to allow them to trust me to move forward with it as well? So yeah, it was pretty interesting. Interesting.
And you bring up Leo, like your relationship with Leo did not start off like friendly, right? Like that was one of these things that you had to really work at there to get that one there. So
yeah, in the book, there's, we did a few things in the book to make him a little more interesting. In real life, Leo was not an alcoholic. Matter of fact, he was like a grandfather, though. And I still have the shotgun that I got willed. Because he owned a gun, like a firearms kind of place, and I remember when he died. And I wrote about it in the book. It was tragic. Him and I had worked together for very many years, and yeah, when we first started out, he'd come off a handler, his prior bureau agent that was working with him. Not a great relationship, didn't go so well because Leo's he's an entrepreneur. He's a business owner, and so business owners are entrepreneurs, and generally you're the type of person that thinks outside the box. He'd been working with the bureau so long that he knew how to make agents successful, because he knew if he made an agent successful, he'd be allowed to be a patriot even more, because they trust him and give him more assignments to do to try to help recruit spies. And he knew this. And the person before me was, not a good mix personality wise, I don't think. And so when I came along, I came in with warning. Oh, you got to watch out for him. He's X, Y, and Z. And so I came in, kind of skeptical and leery, and also very new, because I'd only been in about 4 or 5 years, hadn't had, super, high level kind of sources that were, potentially, doing great stuff like this. So yeah, so there's a lot on both sides.
Well, I'm really intrigued to hear about some of the kind of I guess, I don't know if we want to call them strategies that you've picked up as far as being able to establish that trust. I remember when I was listening to some of the podcasts that you've been on, it didn't strike me as being that obvious as a correlation to sales, but it really is when you break it down. And you started to talk about how people build trust with certain types of salespeople, and then totally some salespeople don't. You've got those persistent salespeople that kind of go to the nth degree and might be badgering folks. Could you talk about how, like, relating it back to how you were able to build trust with some of the most important situations? How were you able to do that? Whereas maybe other salespeople in other types of roles just flat out can't do it.
So I'll walk you through my process of strategizing a good, healthy dialogue, which hopefully was going to manifest in trust and manifest in me achieving what I call ends goals and means goals. So, and this is exactly what where the code of trust came from. Is I did that 30,000 foot optic down on what I was doing when I was running my behavioral team. My behavioral team's whole job was to strategize recruitment operations, strategize double agent operations. Basically, our team's job was strategize sales to individuals who did not want to interact with us. And so it came down to, how do you strategize trust? Because no one's going to take any action for you, share things with you, buy your product without trust. And so the first step in this is, what are your means goals and ends goals? And what I mean by that is, everyone thinks it's the means to the end, short-term, shorter goals to get to your end goal. And the shorter goals are the things like sell a product, sell a widget, talk to a client, pick up a phone, garner information. All those are the short-term goals that you think you have to do first in order to get to the ends goals. Well, the ends goals, I like to anchor on those first. And that is, my number one ends goals now is good, healthy, strong professional relationship. Because think about it, you cannot achieve any of those other little means goals along the way unless you have a good, healthy relationship. So I focus on that first. The second is the ends goal. I can only have that healthy relationship if I have that open, honest communication and that transparency. And my third one, because again, if anyone even suspects manipulation in any way, shape, or form, you will not have trust. It doesn't even matter if it's true or not. Perception is everything. And so I have to make sure that I'm an available resource for their success and prosperity with no expectation of reciprocity. In order to do that, I have to understand what their priorities are. And so with those things in mind, I now understand what my means goals are too, because this whole process is giving labels and meanings to what it is we're trying to achieve. Excuse me, and what it is other people are trying to achieve. Because again, what happens with labels and meanings? You recognize opportunities like that new car. You don't have to try to see that make and model. You just do. And where are these opportunities going to come from? Other relationships. So that's step one. Step two, in order to do this, I have to understand the priorities of the people that I'm going to be engaging with. The priorities of the relationships I need to further things. Because if I'm not talking in terms of their priorities, like I said, those four things, no one's listening to me. So that's discovering their priorities. Step three, discover their context, how they see the world through their particular lens, optic, their generation, ethnicity, social status, economic status, orientations. All these things play to how they see the world, their particular point of view, because this is where we're going to start building some affiliation. And if we're lucky, we're going to start building some liking. This is where we're going to overlap with some interest that we have. So hopefully we can start building on that. Step four is now I'm going to start making sure that I'm going to start framing all this knowledge I now have as I understand my priorities and goals. I understand your priorities and goals. Now I want to make sure when I'm communicating with you, I'm going to use language that you want to listen to, that's going to inspire you to listen, because this is really key and critical. Let go of trying to convince people of things, because convincing is about me, and focus on how do I inspire them to do things, because inspiration has to come from within them. The only way to do that is to make sure it's in terms of their priorities and use this beautiful language of seeking their thoughts and opinions, talking in terms of their priorities, validating them, and giving them choices. And that key is giving choices. Remember, critical things that people want to have answered on first contact: who you are, what you want, when you're leaving, and are you a threat? Do I have control or not control? When you empower people with choice about how to move forward, and I understand your goals, I understand my goals, when I empower you a choice, they will overlap. And that way you're empowering them with control. And that's what people want. So that's the language. And finally, I'm going to craft this and put it all together. Who do I need to be? What do I need to do? When, time of day, all that. And anyway, I'm going to always start out with to open the conversation with what I call a specific non-judgmental validation of a strength, attribute, or action that I've observed in that. In other words, I pay attention and I will find your superpower and I will validate it. And if I don't know what it is yet, I'm going to validate your time, because no one has ever had to give me their time. And so that's how I'll start the conversation, and I will inspire them to move forward. So that's the strategies I have for moving forward with trust.
And that's so good. That's so good. So I've always said that, again, I'm making it about me. Like talking to you makes me so insecure, right? Because it's, I've always found that finding someone's superpower, for the last probably since I turned about 33 and I realized that it wasn't about me, it's about others. My driver in every conversation is finding that somebody else's superpower so that I can validate them. Right. Yeah. But when I, and by the way, it's gone great for me. What I struggle with is what's the difference between doing that and manipulating people, right? Like if I know that finding your superpower and validating is going to set the stage for an opportunity for me, but it's in my nature, right? But like, how do I delineate from thinking that I am manipulating somebody because I know that this is what's happening, even though I believe it's for the greater good? Do you have kind of an easy way to delineate? Yeah.
My easiest answer for everything where you feel manipulation. So first of all, I have that check and balance in there. Remember, the third ends goal is available resource, success and prosperity, no expectation, reciprocity. Anchor yourself that I do not expect you to do anything because I'm doing this for you. And so letting go of that is the first one. The second, transparency. If you fear you're being manipulative in any way, let them know. There is no greater neutralizer of manipulation than honesty and transparency. And so say that, I have done this where people have seen, you all have listened to me on podcasts, and it's an easy thing to do is say, Robin, are you doing it to me now? I said, what, making the conversation about you? Yes. Am I doing okay? Because that's why I'm transparent. My books are my manuals because I am a self-centered, narcissistic moron. I need to be reminded daily. And so am I doing it right now intentionally? Yes, I am, because I have to, because otherwise you won't like me at all. Now, transparency. And then what we also have is what I call congruency between the words and the nonverbals. This is where genuineness and sincerity comes out. So when you're transparent and you can vocalize your own insecurities, not because it's a woe is me or self-loathing or beating, but you vocalize those insecurities so that you can get the guards down on others. So let them know, it's like, listen, if I can be honest about who I am, there's most likely I'm going to be honest in everything else I'm dealing with in life as well. And so there's no manipulation whatsoever. If I'm using skills, tools, and techniques to make sure that I am serving your needs the best I can, that's exactly what I'm doing. If you want me to do it, I won't do that either. Again, who's it all about? You. So I answer everything with transparency.
Robin, I think it's so easy when you got a guy like Gregg Cohen who innately gets this stuff and has already built, or me who has already built my success around doing this type of stuff. How the heck do you, because I know that you offer these like corporate programs and trainings and you go into companies and help them buy into this. How the heck do you do this when you got like a hardo CEO, like the guy that thinks that it's really just transactional and he's not people driven? What have you been able to develop in your tool set as somebody that creates processes to break past that resistance of the dominant language in our culture, which is, no, I just got to win kind of thing, and teach people that it's about them in these like corporate settings with quotas and all these other things?
So you said it right there. I love listening to language. I just have to win. My first question is, are you? I go right to the ends goals. I said, so my ends goals are, again, healthy relationships, open, honest communication, and being a resource. The other ends goal for like me and the FBI was protect national security. Ends goals for companies are the mission statement. End goals are, what are you doing? What is the goal of your company? What's your role in part of that goal? And is it working? Could it be better? And then if you say, because that's the question that you asked the headstrong, resistant CEO. It's like, I say, well, what's your goal? What it is at the end of the day, at the end of the fiscal quarter, what is you're trying to achieve? And they tell me, I said, all right, how's that working for you? Again, I don't tell people what to do or not do. I help what I call discovery questions. So I start with them saying, all right, well, it could be better. All right, how? I said, because here's a guarantee. Because next I go into the definition of crazy. If you're going to keep doing the same thing the same way, what do you think the result's going to be? That's it. It's really pretty simple. And then I said, so what do you think is holding you back? What do you think is holding the company back from achieving X, Y, and Z? You guys are obvious, because it's generally what I've seen with companies is they're very good at managing widgets and managing processes. It's getting people to execute the process, where everything's falling down. And so when you can quickly identify that you're having a problem with execution of processes, is why? Why are they not inspired? Because obviously you cannot convince them to do this, can you? You tell me. They're not. How do you think you can inspire them? So if they don't see what their performance is tied to the impact of their priorities, and they don't understand the why would they do it? Why would they want to be efficient? If you don't have their best interests at heart, if you're not going to be a resource for their success and prosperity, and if they don't see it, feel it, and understand it, why would they want to put out that effort in order to do these things? It's Jocko Willink in his book, Extreme Ownership, does a great job explaining. And I shied away from this for a while, this thought process of explaining the why, but he does a great job explaining the why. If you as a leader don't understand the why of why you have to pass down information or why you have to put a thing in place, if you yourself don't understand it, your people won't either. And it's incumbent upon everyone at every level to understand the why. Why are we doing it this way? And you need to be able to explain it as in terms of the actions that we're taking are actually in the best interest of the priorities of the mission of the company. And if that's not being articulated down, that's a failure of leadership to explain the why, because there's where you get the buy-in. That's where you start having culprit change, as everyone understands. Because and you also understand that the other understanding that is really good is, especially at the lower levels, people are not acting against the best interests from their point of view of you or the company. Now your job is to figure out how that is true. And so I just start with there.
That was pretty good.
Kevin, I'm just referencing some, it's a couple books I read at the end of last year that were really phenomenal. I didn't expect them to be as good as they were. Jocko's book, Extreme Ownership, was really, really good. I thought as a former Marine, that there'd just be everything the same military concepts, but he did a great job of relating them to a lot of different situations. I thought, Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference, phenomenal. He's understand what you're going to get out of these things, though. Chris Voss's book is about transactional interactions and language, and it's very, very similar to mine, but I'm going for longevity. So Chris's phenomenal negotiation book, phenomenal. I was dumbfounded by it. And then the other one, which gets the mindset right for you, is Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. Very calming, very good, because again, the only way you can be really, really successful at every single aspect of everything is through those good, healthy relationships. You can only have good, healthy relationships if you recognize them. The only way you recognize them, calm brain.
I'm really trying to listen and kind of digest a lot of this. I mean, and what I'm finding is the more that I'm listening and thinking about my own life or my own career, my own business here at JWB, I'm seeing so many similarities. Specifically when you talked about Pablo's question about how to actually build trust versus manipulation. I thought that was a great question, Pablo. So thanks for asking that.
Absolutely.
You mentioned how transparency really is honesty and transparency is really how you do that. And when you think about how most salespeople are either through learned behavior or it's just ingrained in them, transparency is not a priority for most salespeople. They actually err on the other side. And that's why most salespeople have a hard time building trust. And if you go one step farther, companies lack transparency. That's just the way it has been, both with their own employees and definitely with their customers. And if you think about every single time, if I think about, which I've been doing here for the last few minutes here, if I think about every time that I leaned in with transparency, whether that was in my personal relationships or whether that was within our employees here at JWB and showing them why we do certain things and how does that affect everybody else on the team, or how does that affect the numbers of this, that, and the other thing. Or I think about what we do here in the Not Your Average Investor Show and the fact that we're here every Tuesday and Thursday. And, it was really nice to hear some of the comments. People said one of the reasons that we love this is because it's transparent. People have asked me questions here on things that we've screwed up at JWB, and I get to answer it wholeheartedly and transparently. And people love that, and if people, just like you're saying, they can just adopt leaning into transparency, that trust comes with it, because it's so rare in today's society from what I see.
Yeah. And it's also demonstrating that, hey, I recognize I'm not perfect. And if you try to come across as I got this all down, no one trusts that, because no one has it all down. I guarantee it. So here's another guarantee of human behavior. We are all working on something. We're born perfect. The world messes us up for about 19 years, and we spend the rest of our lives trying to overcome those first 19 years with all the insecurities we have. I have done so many investigations. I have worked with so many people. I know everyone has shame about something, and we're insecure about something. Stop trying to find it in other people, because if you give yourself a negative confirmation bias, you will find it. As opposed to, that's why I'm always looking for the superpower. Give yourself a positive confirmation bias. Find the greatness in others, and all else will fall into place. And also in yourself, be honest, but also be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up over what you are horrible at. Find people to augment it. I am horrible at marketing. And if you go to my website now, my website is 1,000,000% better than it used to be, because I made a great relationship with another person this year from Australia who was great at marketing. I gave her one of my courses because she had a need. I was like, absolutely, I understand, whatever. And she said, let me help you with your website. I go, I need help. She goes, oh my God, you need help. And I said, all right. And also my eyes this past year opened up with, I've tried to be humble with humility, but this year was the most humbling I've had in a long time. Not because I did anything that caused a humbling moment, because that's the first thing I always try to do, is try to prevent a humbling moment every day of my life with this mouth. But the other thing I realized was I wasn't causing humbling moments, but I definitely wasn't doing everything I should be doing, because I had so many blind spots of myself that other people helped me realize. I mean, Pablo too. I mean, he's come up with so many ideas. This whiteboard that I have two whiteboards. One is the weekly, and this is the projects. The project board is completely full, and half of them are from Pablo. And it's because of my blind spots of things that I could be doing better. That again, I'm good on my content. I think I'm okay. On what I do, but it's a small part of a whole. When you want to do the most important thing that in my life and my company's motto is, how do I bring this understanding to as many people as possible? Well, that's why I have people like you and Pablo in my life give me all these other ideas on what I can do here, here, and here. So again, what's that come from? Relationships.
Incredible, man. Now that you mention it, your content is phenomenal. I put it in the chat, but I'm going to say it out loud so our friend that's listening in the podcast here in the future, following Robin on LinkedIn is a really good investment of your time. He does these book reviews every day of a chapter that he's reading, and he's, not reviews, right? It's studies. Book studies. It's not judgmental.
See, I didn't correct you. See, overcoming the need to correct others is also a very big thing you can do as a human being.
Dude, tell me about it, man. So I want to put that out there. I've been pumping up peopleformula.com in the chat as it comes up, but that is your website, yep. Peopleformula.com. Both of your books, Code of Trust, Sizing People Up. As a behavior nerd, as a marketer myself, couldn't recommend it anymore. I want to give you the opportunity, Robin, to promote whatever you want to promote. Like right now, just be selfish. What do you want to draw attention to? Is there something that you want to send people to? You have right now. It's so funny that you mentioned it on the fly. So one of the things I love my online training academy, because it's all the things we talked about. You can take it at your own pace. So it's not death by Robin like this. Lots of videos. And so I do have an online training academy on People Formula. And what I'll do is right after this, I'll set up a coupon code. It's going to be, and I just wrote it down, JWB, capital J, capital W, capital B, 25. If you want to take any of my online training, including one-on-one coaching, mentoring with me, type in that coupon code JWB25 for 25% off of anything. Ooh,
that's pretty awesome.
You're the first person that's ever done that on the show. That's amazing, man.
And I didn't normally ask ahead of time, but I figured since you offered, I can do this on the fly. And if you say no, I can take it off. But anyone who wants to, that's listening in, JWB25, don't try it yet. Wait till I get off, because I will set up the code as soon as we get off this. And also reach out to me too. As you mentioned, my website is kind of the sump for everything. So those postings I have on LinkedIn that I do for the daily book study. So right now I'm almost done with Human Hacking by my friend Chris Hagnaghi. Next up is Tasha Urich's book, Insight. The book that you got me onto that they quoted me in. What's the name of that one again, Pablo?
Hook Point by Brendan Kane.
Hook Point's going to be next after Tasha's. And so that's kind of the lineup. I'm always open to recommendations. I have a malleable set I'm doing. These book studies, great if you can keep up, but I'm literally going to do a chapter a day. You don't have to keep up. They're kind of my margin notes of what I would do if I was doing this in writing. I'm actually listening on Audible, taking in all the notes on my iPhone as I'm reading and putting out the thoughts every day. And so I go out in thoughts every day with it. It does go onto my Instagram page. So it does get fed into my website. If you just want to look at my thoughts on a day on the website, there'll be a video because I'll do a blog posting with them all captured at the end of all this for people to read everything all at once in one spot. And I'll do I'm going to video on YouTube it as well. So lots of good information. Basically, I'm going to share what I'm learning every day as well is what I'm doing.
Amazing. We got one user-generated question that may just be a no, but let's get into it real quick. Roldan Campo, who is a local real estate investor, also, I'm not sure if he's a Marine or not. I know that he's in the armed forces, right? So you share that, asks, has Robin read The Catalyst by Jonah Berger? And if so, what are his biggest takeaways?
No, I got another book I got to write down. The Catalyst. Okay.
Sorry,
I have
Jonah
not.
Berger.
Okay.
There you go. Robin, first of all, I want to thank everybody for being here, right? Taking an hour of your day on a Tuesday to hang out with us. We don't take that lightly. It's a lot of fun. This is our community. We love seeing people return. We love seeing new folks show up as well. We hope that we're providing as much value as possible. And you showing up is that positive feedback that tells us that we're really doing something good here. So thank you. Thank you for coming. I want to, I got to tell you, join the Facebook group. We got over 2,000 real estate investors in there, jwbfacebookgroup.com. It is where we all hang out in between. Then Robin, I'm going to invite you to that too.
I'll join it. Sure. Absolutely. That's the way. Cool. If anyone wants, to ask me a question there or even through the website, I am so accessible, as Pablo knows. Yeah. I'm easy. Well,
super accessible.
My wife. Yeah, very accessible.
Again, today, not a big real estate related call, more of a big picture, how you make decisions in real estate. We try to tie it in. I thought it was really, really valuable. Robin, you did a great job with that. So did you, Greg. But if you want to know more about passive investing, go to jwbpassiveguide.com. Download that. And if you really want to know about real estate investing, join us on Thursday where we do the rental income property of the week.
Week.
We're going to break down a property on Thursday, 12:30, same time. It's a lot of fun. It's me and Greg just going back and forth. It's a ton of questions, right? Like we've decided we're going to stop talking so much and just answer all the questions so that we get through them after the last couple of calls that have been amazing. But Robin, man, I really want to thank you for showing up. You really did not surprising at all. You did an unbelievable job of providing value, of bringing interesting stories, of giving tactical advice on stuff that I think we all really, really care about. And more than anything, man, you're just this like shining beacon of what it is to be a good man in this archetype that I think is really, really necessary, man. So thank you so much. And I'm gonna give it to Greg for last words here.
Robin, thank you, buddy. Thank you for being here. Pablo, thank you so much for making this relationship possible and setting us up for just an incredible hour here. Robin, I'm super excited to have you in my network now. I learned so much this hour and have learned so much as far as reading and listening to some of your prior podcasts. An incredible, just a breath of fresh air. I just never expected to find somebody with your background to have this type of a thought process and really kind of a strategy for how to build open, honest, transparent professional relationships. It's very, very cool. I see so many tremendous similarities between many of our listeners here who are thinking about building a business relationship with companies that might be thousands of miles away. How do you do that? I think we all learned a tremendous amount today. So thanks for being so willing to share. Super excited to have you as a member of the group as well. And certainly would encourage everybody to take you up on that offer. Thanks for thinking of our show here today.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. It was great new relationships and looking forward to a great year together.
See ya.
Take care, everybody.